Hello, dear friends, and welcome to another episode of Life of Love, where we gather every Thursday to explore curiosity, living our best lives, and making the choice that we know is there at every moment to live from our hearts, and even on hard days, which I acknowledge that life of love can be hard. So today is a really great opportunity. We're meeting with Jordan Miller, and he is involved with a lot of things that we might have big questions about. And I want to unwrap maybe some myths and just let him share his creations and his philosophy and his story. So Jordan, welcome to Life of Love. I'm really excited to pick your brain. I keep saying pick your brain and I mean it. I'm going to.
All right. Well, thank you for having me.
It's just a delight. I mean, I was reading your bio and you've always been interested in the philosophy of things and so I'm not surprised that you've gone down this path. But I would love for you to share with my audience a little bit about your story of how you were drawn to the AI and the blockchain, and how all this is tying in with your story, because I think it's intriguing and I'm really excited. I hope everyone sticks around because he has so much great information.
Cool. Well, your podcast I know is much more of a personal. It's not a tech podcast, so I'll kind of get into some stuff that I probably wouldn't on other podcasts. For instance, I grew up very, very, very Mormon. So I grew up in religion very much. I was I I was very dedicated to the religion. I was like a little fanatic running around, and because I recognized at a young age that there's something other, there's something other. There's a wholly other. I think the kind of material reductionist scientific viewpoint is that there's nothing but matter and bouncing particles, but that doesn't quite do it. Because if there was, there would be no universe, because there would be no change, there would be no imbalance. For instance, the Big Bang. If everything just exploded at an even rate everywhere, there would be no galaxies. There would be, even if there were particles, they would just be evenly spread out in space. So there's some kind of essence that isn't explained by a material reductionist point of view. And I kind of felt like intuitively I understood that at a young age. And then, of course, well, I grew up in Mormonville, Utah. And so this was, the religion was presented as like, here's the answer to that query, and I just jumped on it full, I don't know, all the way. And, personally that was, kind of felt like a mistake, honestly, because I remember when I decided that I am going to be a Mormon, I'm going to get baptized, I'm going to do this thing, I'm dedicated. I remember this little inkling in the back of my mind that was like, are you sure? You want to do this? This is where you want to go? And I was like, yeah. And so I did. And by the time I was about 21, so that was like 7 or 8, 15 years later or whatever, I realized that I was in a place kind of like probably a little bit like you were at 32. I was like not happy. I realized this, something's wrong. I couldn't put my finger on it, but I decided to kind of start over. Let's try again. I got to put everything kind of on the back burner and just try to figure out what I'm doing here again. Let's start over. And that was probably the best thing I've ever done. That's kind of when I got curious about philosophy and all these different topics. I got into I found that I was really interested in how information flows through systems on a technical level. I was interested in the economy and morality. Eventually, I got to the point where I had to question that religion and I had to put it away. So that took me that didn't just take me straight into atheism. I mean, it took me everywhere. So I went there. I went to the Eastern philosophies. I looked into the roots of the Christian faith. So I went everywhere I could go. And then around 27 or so, I decided, well, I got to figure something out to do. Like, what should I do with my life? I kind of feel like I've discovered or produced a good philosophy of living, but what do I do now? And I decided, well, probably if I could do something in AI that could improve the largest number of people's lives, because it would, we could automate the economy, we could, do things to feed the hungry, anything, any problem we need to solve, we can solve with intelligence. And so eventually, about 2 years ago, I was able to start building this Satori project, which I think is a pretty good idea. But that's basically like my story, my history in a nutshell.
Yeah. Well, I honor your bravery to question and turn over the apple cart, right? It's like it takes a lot of courage.
Well, it also takes pain
Yes.
because you might have to feel like you're being really courageous if you got something to lose. But if you're at a point where your life where you're like, well, this is no good. You got nothing to lose. You might as well just try something out.
Hmm. And do you think that your ability to look at things through a different lens gave you the idea for the Satori?
No, I think, well, actually, yes. In a roundabout way, I'd say yes to that question because when I said, okay, I want to understand intelligence. A lot of people want to understand intelligence, and we have a lot of AI developers that want to understand, but I don't think most people try to come at it from first principles. They say, I'm a data scientist, or I got a job, or I want to make this model. So what do I have to do in computers? So anyway, they come at it from a different angle of the artificial intelligence. How does that work? And they start to ask that question. And then, on varying levels, they might say, I'm a little practitioner or I'm a PhD level, but I'm asking that question. What is our current state of artificial intelligence and why? And how do I maybe incrementally improve it or something like that? How do I use it? I didn't come at it from that angle, right? Because I wasn't a practitioner. And I mean, I did go into data modeling and business intelligence, but that was a little later. So I came at it from saying, well, I just want to know how intelligence works as such. Like, what is it? Our brain does it. So I saw it as something, as a theoretical, Platonic solid or whatever. I saw it as something out there that our brains implement very well, and computers implement it sort of well. So I was like, the best thing that implements whatever intelligence is the brain. So I have to look at that. And so I looked at the brain to figure out what are the operating principles of intelligence. So to answer your question, I think, yeah, that's important to do it that way. I think it gives you insights that can inform the design of Satori that the other way doesn't provide or doesn't hint at. Yeah.
Well, I love to hear you say this because the model is humanity. It's not a machine. It's the model is like how we as humans think. And so that to me is very reassuring because I'm not really exactly sure how they built the AI systems that we're using. And
Do you want
I
me to
know a
give
lot
you a
of people
rundown?
get like really freaked out. Is AI going to take over? And
Yeah.
what do we need to do to insulate ourselves? Or should I, my phone's listening to everything that I'm saying and my privacy. So there's like layers and there's wormholes, right? And there's a lot of fear around it because it's a lack of knowledge. So that's what I was hoping to get from you today was like, let the Life of Love community have a glimpse into what's being developed and what
Sure.
to look for, and even like how it can help someone live a more full life.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'd love to explore those things with you.
Yeah. So the models that we have, I don't think I have to give any kind of history. I mean, it came out of statistics. They figured out, oh, we can do this in computers. They built various types of models, but eventually they got to neural nets and then deep neural nets, and that's what we have today. And so the deep neural nets have allowed us to do all the crazy AI stuff that we have. And so all deep neural nets are, and basically all of these models all they are is a static mapping from one pattern space to another. So that could be like the pattern space of language, for instance, for ChatGPT. We say, okay, I could have all these questions or prompts. I could have all these statements on this side of the equation, and I want to match those up with good statements on the other side of the equation, answers, and then that's it. So it's a huge, huge, gigantic map of these two pattern spaces, essentially. I mean, you could literally think of it as like a list of all possible, but it's organized in a way that you don't have to list out every possible map. So, but it's a huge map, and that's all it is. So it's a big machine. Data goes in one side. It finds the right place to come out the other side, and it produces the answer. So this is what AI is, and to build AI as we're doing it today, it takes a lot of training time. Like, this is what they do. The process is they spend years aggregating the data, and then they spend months throwing out stuff they don't like. I don't know, like hate speech or something, right? So let's get rid of that part of our language. We don't like that. And then they train the model, and it's not quite right. So they keep retraining it. But every time it takes months to train. So that's a long process. So this is how we do it. We make these huge maps, and it's a lot of human labor and a lot of human training. With Satori, and basically it just creates this huge machine. One big model, right? So one big computer program. With Satori, we thought, well, why don't we make a network of computers? A network of computers. And this network of computers they're making little tiny models, every single one of them. So they're all talking about the future. They're talking about the future with each other. They're saying, hey, I'm a little node that's trying to figure out what the weather is going to be in Tallahassee tomorrow or something. They look at some real world specific thing, and they're trying to figure out what the future is going to be of that thing. A lot of government statistics, for instance, might be important to know the future of. And so they're all looking at different things, and then they broadcast their predictions out to the rest of the network so that the other, maybe correlated items can be informed. What's going to happen over here? Well, I'm predicting the weather in the next county over, so I should probably hear about, neighboring counties' predictions to figure out what I'm going to be. So we're building this federation of predicting future AI bots. That's all they do. It's a conversation about the future all the time. And we can listen in on that. And the cool thing about it is, since they're not these huge, big, massive models like ChatGPT or something, they actually rebuild themselves very, very quickly. With new data, they rebuild in like a minute or less. So they rebuild really fast, and they can be responsive to the real world that we live in. And that's one of the differences that I see with the way we do AI and computers and the way our brains work. So our brains are, first of all, a network. They're a network of neurons and a network of cortical columns, and they have this hierarchical network. And secondly, they're always updating. We don't watch out of our eyes the first 3 months of our life and aggregate all that data and then train our brain on it. No, we do it all the time, right? Constantly, always updating. And so the Satori network is more of that design. And I think that's part of what gives us our humanity, is being able to respond so quickly to our environment. But anyway, I don't know if that kind of helps, if it gives kind of an overview of the differences.
Yeah, well, I mean, it sparks in me free will.
Right.
And this is sort of like a theme, I think, because even though it's been this way, this way, this way, you can choose. The idea that it's adapting and that it's based on the smaller model, it seems more like it, and I'm going to come back to humanitarian. It seems
Yeah.
more about free will, and that's what separates us from machines, I think. I mean, maybe with AI, machines could demonstrate. Well, I guess you are showing they're demonstrating free will if they're willing to adapt the prediction based on what the feedback is. But I have a question. How you said it takes a lot of people, and are the people putting the data in individually, or it's from their systems that they are running and it's collecting data? I'm just curious because, I mean, if these systems are based on people's input, how do we know that those people's input is what the mass consciousness, it represents the mass consciousness, or is appropriate?
It's a good question. So there's two things to highlight. I think the traditional way of making AI takes a lot of people in the loop training. So it takes a lot of human management of the training process. So for instance, I mean, we for like ChatGPT as an example, these large language models, we make the language, then we curate the language, then we train it, and then when it's not quite the way we want it, we retrain it with our changes that we decide. And that's nice because we can do things like remove hate speech. But it's also it's a double-edged sword because the language that we use is not the truth, right? We maybe approximate it in some domains, but we also tell a lot of lies. So we cannot make a model of our language and then expect it to be the arbiter of truth, which is kind of how we treat these large language models today. We treat them as arbiters of truth, and they're not.
They're not. Well, I noticed that this week. I was looking up something about being, what was it? Being a brand representative. I was like, I wonder if I could do an affiliate link on my show to help fund my show, right? And I asked ChatGPT, and then I went and looked. I was like, well, that was not accurate. When I went to where they suggested to look to affiliate links, I was like, well, this is just, they've just advertised more and they have more. So I'm starting to see that. So it's like, I totally know what you're saying. You have to validate. It's like if you're talking to someone on the bus and they gave you advice, you wouldn't just take that advice and run with it. You got to do your background. You got to do your research.
That's right. And I think the place that this shows up the most is on any I don't know, idea or topic that might be PC or have differing opinions, or this is offensive to somebody, anything like that, you're never going to get to the truth. Because what these systems do is they tend towards the function they're approximating is, what is the answer that I can give that won't offend anybody? That is what they're trying to do. Like, that is the point. So
it's like pasteurized milk. It doesn't taste that good. It's got all the things taken out of it that make it fun.
That is actually, I should clarify, that is the best that it can do. The worst it can do is say, I'm going to approximate the function that gives the people who made me, Google or whatever, more power. Right?
So
that's
censorship.
The more appropriate. So that's why, okay, so how do you solve this problem of truth? That was kind of your question. If everybody's giving this data perhaps to Satori or something, how do we solve the problem of truth? Here's the design. Anybody can provide any data to Satori, any at all. Doesn't matter. But the group of people that are the community of Satori node operators and people that are interested in the project, those people can vote on what data streams are actually valuable, good, worthwhile, not manipulated data streams. They get to vote. So we do have humans in the loop in the form of choosing the correct data streams that we care about. We care about these things. We want to know the future of these things, but we don't have them in the loop any other place. And so the machine is free to find whatever answer is actually the most accurate answer for predicting the future of this data stream. Which means the data that it's getting is from, the Earth, it's from our society, it's from the real world. And the training that it does is automatic. It just tries to figure out what the truth is. And so if there's ever going to be an arbiter of truth, it's going to be a future oracle like Satori. It's going to be a network or a model, at least, that is predicting the future, because that is the fastest way to get to the closest thing that you could call ground truth. So anyway, I think that's very important. In fact, I think that's one of the best reasons to build Satori is to say, well, we're gonna make an arbiter of truth now, or as close as we can get.
And it's, wow, the people who are on the board who I'm picturing these people that, they should be really, moral, right? Like it's
Well,
choosing where, but it's like, it's not going to be a real cross section of our population because not everybody even knows that this is an occupation. How do you train? You're a philosopher, like you're a theologist. I mean, I don't know. Like, I know like organized religion has really had struggles with not having a place of control and manipulation and shame under, overlay. So it's like, man, having those people is a huge, huge asset. And like, how do people know that even this exists to help out?
Well, here's the thing. There's no board of Satori. So anybody who's running a Satori node, we're trying to get rid of the bureaucracy, right? Because bureaucracy is what breeds these problems.
Yeah, this control, the power of control.
So the democracy is kind of the model here, saying, okay, anybody who cares about this can participate. So anybody who runs it on their machine can provide any data they want. They can have their machine, look at any data that they want it to, make predictions about anything they want. The board members, or the group of people that can do this voting on what data streams, what predictions are valuable, that's anybody who owns the Satori token. And that's why it's tied to a blockchain. So when you tie it to a blockchain, then for the work of doing all these predictions, you can generate a token. And that token can be a token of control. So you can decentralize the control of the AI engine or the network, decentralize it to as many people as possible. So that's the goal with Satori, is decentralize it to as many voices as possible. And then you don't have this problem of a single controller that wants to aggregate power. All that kind of stuff goes away.
Wow. It reminds me of when you buy into a food co-op and you're like, you help the farmer's growing all this amazing food, but everybody's helping to support that farmer so they can feed everybody. So this is like a mind food co-op, it feeds your mind. And I love the whole idea. It's brilliant. And it's like we have this technology, and to use it in a thoughtful way is it's applaudable. It's really, really wonderful, your vision. And I think that's what people get so scared about, is like, well, who's controlling it? And so this is reassuring to me that there's systems like this that are being worked on. And so yeah, wow. So And then I'm going to bring in, I mean, you got to bring in the Matrix, right?
Oh, sure.
When they go visit the Oracle, the lady on the park bench, and you love her, but you hate her too, because she's not direct, she'll tell the future, but then you don't like it, like, I was like,
Right.
I really like this lady, but I sort of hate her too. She's like,
Right.
um, but, and
And
then,
the first one, the park bench, I think that's number 2 or something. The first one where they go to her in her house, she tells Neo something like, don't worry about the vase. And then, because he's confused about what she said, he turns around and knocks over the vase. So the future can be a self-fulfilling prophecy as well. It's like, and so I think if something like this really got powerful, got really good, everybody's like, okay, the Satori network is the best we have at predicting the future, generalized future of our civilization or whatever. We really do have a future oracle. It kind of feels like it can issue self-fulfilling prophecies on demand, which is a problem if some centralized entity is in control of it, because then they will issue self-fulfilling prophecies to a grandized power aggregated to themselves. That is why not only the production, but the benefit and the control of the AI needs to be decentralized, distributed amongst as many people as possible.
I love that vision.
Yeah.
Right, because we've been under, we know when there's manipulation, and then, well, they're a conspiracy theorist because they question. And so the more you start questioning, and then it makes certain groups upset that you're questioning, it's very illuminating. And I'm always like, well, thank you for the clarity, because now I see.
Right.
And
Yeah.
so it goes in anything. I mean, anything, you can be manipulated in anything. So to
Yes.
me, it just brings back, go to your core values. What's your truth? And
Right.
you don't have to listen to the oracle. You can, with your free will, you can choose to change, or you can go along with someone else's story. It's sort of like the human condition. It's just magnified on a computer. I mean,
Yeah.
because you can listen to someone's story and believe that that's what's going to happen, or you can create your own. And
Right. Right.
so
You
that's the
can.
greater.
It does seem like, let's say a future oracle is, instantiated right now, or let's say we already had one in 2006. We had one. It was ready to go. It was running. It would have told us, you're headed for this housing crisis. It might have even told us in 2003, when certain laws were passed or whatever else. It might have been like, well, if you do that, you're going to head for this housing crisis in about 5-10 years or whatever it is, which is a good thing, because as soon as we get information about where we're headed, we can alter our course. So we would never have had a housing crisis. So if it can see these black swan events before they occur, then we can avoid disaster. And so that's one of the other benefits. I would say probably the main long-term benefit of having a future oracle is it gives us the ability to anticipate the future before it happens and change it. Choose a different future, you can always switch between which futures you want if you can see them ahead of time.
It's so fun. It's so fun. I love the whole idea of that, and to have it, well, that's why we study history, right? Like, you study history so history doesn't repeat itself. So
Yeah.
this is another manifestation of studying history. It's in real time, and we're able to look at it like now.
Yeah.
So, and things are moving so fast. Like, we're going through this photon belt. We've had all these solar flares. Like, nobody's sleeping well. We're all
I've never heard of
integrating.
this photon belt.
Yeah, look that up. There's a photon belt moving through the Milky Way galaxy. It's dropping these neutron, these, they're not neutrons, they're
Neutrinos?
neutronians, the
Neutrinos?
smallest, yes, neutrinos, just smallest bits of energy. And so we can use this energy to magnify our purpose. But also it takes a little bit to integrate. So you might not sleep, you might be feeling dizzy. I mean, I've felt really dizzy lately, honestly, and I have to lay down every once in a while and just drink some water and just sort of like just surrender to it, because I'm sensitive to energy. I always have been. Like, even as a kid, I didn't really appreciate the energy in the church, and I'd throw up on Sunday. Like, we sat in the back because I was going to throw up.
Oh,
I just am sensitive to energies. For whatever reason, it's a gift. It's a gift and a curse, like most things, you're like, why am I so weird?
I hear that. I know it.
But I'm here to say there's lots coming in, and I'm excited. I'm excited where we're going. I'm so happy I chose to incarnate at this time, and I'm so honored to be in this space with you and share this. So I know you have a website that people can go to, satorinet.io.
That's right.
Okay, so you can find out more. Are you looking people to have nodes on they have a node on their computer?
Yeah,
Or
they
how
can
does
just
that work?
download it. It runs inside Docker. So you go to the download tab, it shows you like 3 steps. You just download Docker, then download the Satori, and then run it. And then it installs and it should run every time you turn on your computer. You can turn that off if you want, But yeah, you can just download it now. When it's running, you can actually it's all automatic. It's automated. It has an AI engine inside of it. You don't have to do anything. But if it's if you want to use your computer and it's running, and you can always pause it as well. You just open up Satori, pause it. It'll kind of chill out, not do its AI stuff, and then resume when you're done using it. So we tried to make it as easy as possible to run on anything.
And so were you involved with writing the code, or how did you get the team to help write this code? I'm just curious.
Myself. Yeah.
And how long did it take you to write
Well,
it?
this is a big idea, and it's a weird idea, and I didn't think I could sell it, right? Because I'm not a salesman, first of all. I'm a programmer. So I thought, well, I'll just start writing it. And I'll write the most prototypical, simple version of everything. And I can do that. And 2.5 years later, it's about ready to launch. So it's ready for people to download and try it out and everything.
Okay. Well, I mean, I always encourage my audience, if this piques any curiosity or any interest at all, just go there. I mean, what do you have to lose? You might learn something to talk about the next get together. Like, this is the future. I really believe that this is where society is headed, and I want to demystify it, because I feel in my heart it's going to be fun. It's going to be great.
It
Thank
is.
you for this creation.
Yeah, I don't live in fear. It's not a problem. Don't worry about it.
Yeah. There are no mistakes. Like, if something didn't work out the way you wanted, you learn something and you can choose a different way next time. So,
That's right.
it's oh, well, thank you so much. Was there anything else? Because we're coming up on our time. Any
Mm,
other, please
No,
check out
no.
your website.
Yeah, the satorinet.io,
Okay.
satorinet.io. If you don't want to run it right now, you can just go put in your email, and we'll email you when it's ready after the launch has occurred.
And the power in numbers, right? How many nodes do you think you're going to need to really get the patterns that you're going to need to predict
We're
future?
going to start at the top level, which is the most broadest data streams, like the CPI number, for instance. Inflation is going to be one of those that really matters to the entire economy. So we're going to start with the broadest stuff, and so really it's a question of just detail. Once we have a small amount of nodes that can understand those in relation to each other, then we can add in more detail as more nodes come online.
I would love for you to put in a astrology component, galactic astrology, because I feel like that's the most accurate that I've seen. The sidereal galactic astrology. It's based on the actual sky that's above us. The tropical is based on the sky back when they made it, which doesn't apply. When you look up at the sky, it's sidereal. Sidereal is actually what is going on in the universe around us that is red. So I would love to see how those models match up with yours, and I'm not yours, but I mean with the economic and the other, to have that. I'm really, really excited to hear about it, because so many things you'll be like, well, I'm having this kind of day, and I'll look at my sidereal astrology. I have an app, and it'll be like, yeah, your first house, the way you're represented, that you're in chaos right now. Mercury's doing its thing. And I'll be like, yeah, that's the way I feel. Like, it's a total affirmation. And I don't look at it as an oracle. I look at it as an affirmation. So maybe I need to change the way I'm using the information, right? So to me, your whole message is so empowering, because if everyone chooses to have compassion, to have self-care, to love your neighbor as yourself, to understand we're one individual in a sea of one, we change the outcome of history.
It probably changes it pretty fast, too.
Yeah. So it's worth it. It's worth going there, being uncomfortable, figuring out what your core wounds are, and saying, I love you anyway. You're insecure. I love you anyway. You have, abandonment issues. I love you anyway that, you have no idea what's going on. It's okay. Nobody else knows what's going on either. Like, just have self-compassion and love your neighbor. And, we can change all this crud. We don't have to let systems that aren't serving us define our future.
That's right. That's absolutely right. I
look forward to the second episode of this, where you're like, yeah, this is what we're seeing.
Cool. Awesome.
Jordan, thank you so much. I'm really excited to get this out and share it with everybody.
Well, thank you for having me on. I really appreciate it.
Yeah.